Redemption on the plains. In the heart of modern-day Wyoming, near the city of Cheyenne, the vast plains stretched out like an undulating sea of emerald green, punctuated by the occasional cluster of brown and white cattle lazily grazing under the big sky's watchful eye. The McCready Ranch, a sprawling expanse of land, was no exception to this landscape. It had been in the McCready family for generations, tended by calloused hands and weathered hearts. Martha McCready, a woman of sturdy build and steely resolve, knew every inch of her husband Tom's ranch like she knew her own body. She'd lived here since their wedding day, raising 2 fine sons who now helped tend the land themselves. Life was simple but fulfilling under the Wyoming sun. One crisp autumn morning, as Martha tended to the horses in the stable, a deafening boom echoed across the plains, rattling the very bones of the ranch house. She rushed out, squinting against the glare, and saw it, a flaming meteor slicing through the sky, leaving a trail of smoke and fire before disappearing behind a distant hill. Martha's heart pounded as she watched the horizon, waiting for another explosion that never came. She decided to ride out, following the path of destruction, her curiosity piqued and concern growing for any injured cattle. As she approached the crash site, she saw something glinting amidst the smoldering crater, a metallic object half, buried in the earth. As she dismounted her horse, she heard a strange noise, like metal grinding against itself. Then she saw him, the creature emerging from the wreckage. It was tall and sinewy, with gangly limbs that moved with an unnatural grace. Its skin was iridescent, shifting colors under the sun's gaze, and its eyes. They were enormous, black orbs that seemed to absorb all light. Martha gasped, stumbling back as fear coursed through her veins. The creature turned towards her, tilting its head slightly, as if studying her with those terrifying eyes. Then it took a step forward and another, closing the distance between them with unnerving speed. She froze, paralyzed by terror. But then she heard Tom's voice in her head, echoing his favorite saying, "Never back down from a fight, Martha. Not on my land." Summoning every ounce of courage, she turned and ran towards her horse, scooping up her husband's old hunting rifle from where it was tied to the saddle. She heard the creature moving behind her, its footsteps thudding against the earth like a drumbeat signaling her doom. But Martha didn't falter. She swung herself onto her horse, kicking it into a gallop as she rode back towards the ranch house. She couldn't outrun this thing forever. She needed help. As she approached the house, she saw Tom walking towards her, his brow furrowed in confusion at her panicked state. Relief washed over her until she remembered the creature. She pulled up sharply beside him, breathlessly warning him about the alien menace lurking nearby. Tom scoffed initially, but seeing Martha's terrified expression and the rifle clutched tightly in her hands, he grabbed his own weapon and followed her back towards the crash site. They approached cautiously, Tom taking point while Martha hung back, heart hammering in her chest like a frightened bird's wings. Suddenly, there it was again, the creature, standing over something on the ground. As they moved closer, they saw that it was hunched over Tom's lifeless body, its hands, if they could be called such, tinkering with some kind of device attached to her husband's chest. Rage boiled within Martha, burning away her fear like dawn breaking through darkness. She raised her rifle, sighting along the barrel at the creature's head. But before she could squeeze the trigger, Tom moved, stepping directly into her line of fire. No, she screamed, but it was too late. The shot echoed across the plains, striking Tom square in the back. He crumpled to the ground, a shocked expression frozen on his face. Martha stared at her husband's body in disbelief, then looked up at the creature looming over him. Its eyes seemed to glow with malicious intelligence. It had deliberately put itself between them, knowing Martha wouldn't risk shooting it if it meant hitting Tom. A guttural roar escaped Martha's lips as she lunged forward, swinging the rifle like a club. The creature darted back, avoiding her blows with effortless agility. But Martha wasn't deterred. She pursued it relentlessly, her grief and fury fueling each step, each swing. The chase led them through the ranch lands, across fields dotted with cattle that lowed nervously at their passing. The alien moved swiftly, leaping over fences and traversing gullies with ease, but Martha kept pace, driven by a primal instinct to avenge her husband's murder. As they neared the old abandoned mine shaft on the outskirts of their property, Martha remembered Tom's words. If we're ever attacked here, that mine is our fallback position. It's a natural fortress. She changed tactics, allowing herself to fall behind slightly while still keeping up appearances of pursuit. The creature, sensing victory, didn't notice her new plan until she suddenly veered away from him, disappearing into the mouth of the mineshaft. It hesitated for a moment before following her inside. Darkness claimed them both as they descended deeper into the earth, Martha's heart pounding wildly in her ears. She knew these tunnels like the back of her hand. Tom had taught her well. But could she use that knowledge against an alien predator? She reached the first intersection, pausing briefly to listen for her quarry. There, the faint sound of its metallic footsteps echoed off the tunnel walls. She moved quickly but silently down another passage, setting up a makeshift ambush with tools scavenged from Tom's mining equipment. As the creature approached, Martha pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing. It moved past her, its glowing eyes scanning the darkness ahead. Then it stepped onto a loose board she'd strategically placed, and plummeted through the rotted wood, disappearing into the pit she'd dug earlier that day for just such an occasion. Martha didn't wait for it to climb out. She tossed a lit lantern down after it, watching as flames ignited within the shaft below. The creature screamed, a high, pitched wail that echoed hauntingly through the mine, but Martha steeled herself against the sound. She emerged from the mine minutes later, rifle in hand, and watched as smoke billowed forth from the opening. When no further signs of life emerged, she knew it was over. The alien threat had been eliminated. Back at the ranch house, Martha broke down, collapsing onto Tom's favorite chair as sobs racked her body. Her boys found her there hours later, their faces etched with concern and grief. They'd heard about the meteor crash from passing travelers and rushed home to find their mother unharmed but heartbroken. Martha told them everything about the creature, its attack on Tom, their chase across the plains, and Martha's final vengeance in the mine shaft. The boys listened intently, anger flashing in their eyes at the tale of their father's murder. But as they comforted their mother, promising to carry on their father's legacy, something else stirred within them, pride. For Martha McCready had faced an alien invader alone and emerged victorious. She was no longer just a rancher's wife. She was a warrior queen who defended her land and avenged her husband. News of the alien spaceship crash spread across Wyoming like wildfire, drawing scientists, military personnel, and even tourists to the McCready Ranch. But Martha welcomed them all with stoic resolve, answering questions about that fateful day with calm efficiency while privately grieving for Tom. As autumn turned into winter, life on the ranch resumed its familiar rhythm. The cattle were tended, the land was farmed, and the family remained strong. Despite their loss, and though the alien threat had been vanquished, Martha knew she'd carry the memory of that day with her until her dying breath, both the horror of losing Tom and the fierce pride in having faced such a terrifying adversary alone, for Martha McCready was no ordinary rancher's wife. She was a force to be reckoned with, a woman who had stared death in its alien eyes and said, "Not on my land," and she would do it again if necessary, for this was her home, her sanctuary, and she'd die before letting anyone, or anything, take that away from her.